This is part 2 of beating Roboquest without guns. This time I'm playing as the Guardian because I believe he will be the most difficult. The reason I say this is because Guardian has no real specialty. Since he's the starting character, he's built as a jack of all trades. With that out of the way, let's discuss the rules again. I cannot fire my guns. The only exception will be non-damaging alt fires like the barrier and the sonar shot, etc. I can only deal damage with my secondary attack, main ability, head bonking, and any other upgrades I get. And I have to beat the final boss on Heroes +2 difficulty. Let's begin. For my first perk I grabbed a Juggernaut, just for some added HP. I'm also not using the sunglasses for this run, and instead I'm using the vacuum. With nothing important from the free chest and a few wrenches converted, it was time to start the challenge. For this run my main strategy was to run at enemies while holding the melee button. I only really used my shield to block large sources of damage like the small exploders. Head bonking was also going to be pretty important since it's one of my only other damage sources in the early game. On my way to the challenge room I got my first perk point, which I spent on solar panel, which would regenerate my shield when I collected healing cells. There's nothing important in the challenge room, so I continued on with the stage. In the safe room I got claw strings from the chest, and I bought the barrel for 50% armor but 25% less speed, and a dice from the shop. Just like the last run, I went through the ruins. Moving on, I was getting used to the rhythm of melee Guardian, and also getting adjusted to my 25% speed penalty. With my next perk point, I chose to reduce my shield cooldown by 10%. I probably should have re-rolled, but it's a bit too late for that now. I finished the first stage with an S rank and in 2 minutes and 20 seconds. In the ruins, I bought a rake from the shop, then started the rest of the level. In the first arena, there was an elite encounter who didn't cause too much trouble, since I could basically stun lock him with my bash. I would basically use my shield to constantly attack one strong enemy, then rely on my armor to tank the rest of the hits. Since I had so much survivability and the extra healing cells from bash, I was able to stay at full health most of the time. The challenge room chest had nothing important. After that I got another perk point and I used it on tactical slap, so every 6 seconds my bash fired a ranged wave. In the safe room there also wasn't anything important, and just to clear up any confusion, melee weapons or weapons that aren't technically guns that you can pick up are also banned. The next arena went by pretty smoothly since my survivability was so reliable. I got the free perk point and I used it on dexterity. I ran through the final safe zone, which had nothing important. El Mustico was my first boss again. Probably the second worst boss since he's pretty small and pretty mobile. After chasing him around for a bit and somewhat carefully using my shield, he was taken care of. I used my perk point for gluttony so healing cells were more effective, which would help for face tanking bosses without my shield active. I finished the stage with an S rank and in 6 minutes 43 seconds. In the fields, the free chest decided to taunt me with the legendary weapon, but unlike last run, I couldn't use the alt fire. With nothing important in the chest or anywhere else, I went into the stage. I didn't really have primary targets since I could take most hits. There weren't any issues for the first few encounters, but the challenge room... Oh boy, I hate this challenge room. Your jumps have to be really precise and I was already running with a speed penalty, but I still wanted the reward so I powered through it. I wasn't taking too much damage because of my armor, but it was still annoying. The worst thing is that there was nothing important in the chest. Next up was the big guy, and I actually had to be a little more careful because he did a bit of damage and rapidly fired his attacks. He was eventually killed and I got another perk point. I chose line breakers so I could get more armor and speed when I hit an enemy with bash. With this perk, I have 70% armor, which is the max, and my speed penalty from the barrel is more or less redundant. In the safe room, I bought a rice cooker, so my healing cells are a bit more effective. I also bought a bonsai tree so I get 20% auto critical chance, which means I can actually deal critical damage with my bash. I also got a soccer shoe from the free chest. With nothing else to get from the safe zone, I went through the rest of the stage. It's nice to see the movement speed helping me while also having 70% armor, so I was basically unkillable. The crit damage I was doing wasn't too much, but it was nice to see it pop up every once in a while. I made it to the arena, and it was pretty easy, but it was also time consuming, and it cost me the S rank for time. When fighting this big guy compared to the last one, it was clear that the extra armor was helping out so much that I didn't really have to use my shield. I got another perk point and I used it for bonk bubble, so if my shield is active and I head bonk, it would cause an explosion. I also should have rerolled this, but again, there's nothing I can really do about it now. Anyway, this stage was completed with an A rank and in 6 minutes and 6 seconds. It's time for the energy center. There's nothing important in the safe room, so it's time to kill. None of these enemies were a threat. My armor was too high for me to die, and I kind of regret this choice, but it was also fun to be a walking tank, especially since I never really play like this. In the challenge room, there's still nothing important. In the arena, burn damage from enemies was completely irrelevant, since burn only lasts if you have scratch damage, and since enemies drop more healing cells when I kill them with bash, I basically have full health at all times. In the safe room, there was nothing important in the chest, and I bought a Teddy Thermals from the shop. I got another perk point and chose Eye of the Tiger, so my bash attack speed was increased. Now, I don't think the effect happened for a while, but I'm pretty sure it's because my previous line breaker buff had to expire before it could take effect. Even though bonk hammer still, the arenas were pretty slow, but I wasn't at risk of dying. It's boss time. The judge ball was also the boss that I got for this run. I bought a frog prince before the fight, just so I can get that extra movement speed when I get hit. Now if this boss fight doesn't show you how indestructible I was, then I don't know what will. Yeah, pretty easy. With the boss dead, I used my perk point for the bonk hammer, and I finished the stage with an S rank and in 6 minutes and 21 seconds. I went into Haven City. Again, there was nothing important in the safe room. For some reason during this run, almost nothing in the safe rooms were actually important. The bonk hammer was a nice upgrade to finally have. The first big guy took longer to kill than the commando run, but it was more satisfying to be a complete bullet sponge. Just like the commando run, this stage was pretty easy to get through, and it wasn't too interesting. With my next perk point, I grabbed a surprise backslap so my tactical slap had a chance to recover its cooldown. In one of the safe rooms, I grabbed the beach ball so that I could have even more invulnerability, and a pan flute for that little bit of extra damage. There's also a lemon, so status effects weren't as bad. I got another perk point which I used on flex handle, so my bonk hammer had more attack speed when my shield was active. Anyway, this stage was completed with an S rank and in 5 minutes 14 seconds. It's time for the final stage. I decided to get the police whistle, so my movement speed was increased after I opened a door. The first room was pretty easily cleared. The first big guy I encountered was easily killed. I completed the first challenge room pretty easily, but there was nothing important in the chest. I got a perk point and I used it for dexterity for a little more movement speed, which was actually pretty noticeable. In the other challenge room I got a non-magic ring, so my non-elemental damage was upped by 15%. Then I went to the final safe room. With nothing important, it was time for the boss. I got Beetle Royale again, and this boss wasn't hard, but it was interesting. I couldn't hit him sometimes because he flies around quickly and tries to stay away from me. And with certain platforms gone, it was difficult to hit him consistently. I had to drop down a level just to have a better battlefield. I'll let you watch the rest of the fight. And with Beetle Royale dead, the stage was completed with an S rank and in 5 minutes and 15 seconds. The run was completed with an A rank and took 31 minutes and 1 second. This was an interesting run because I thought it would be more difficult than it actually was, but because I basically made myself invincible, it worked out in the end. Anyway, the next run will probably be Ranger, then I'll do Engineer, and after Engineer I'll do a separate challenge for Recon before doing the no guns recon. Anyway, I still can't do outros.